and welcome to my session, How to Overcome Escape Room Ennui with Pedagogy, Pals, and Pints. So in this session, we're going to talk about how to make an escape room that can beat the bluings and do the doings using Pedagogy, Pals, and Pints. And we're going to do it while we develop a terrible, tiny escape room. But before that, who on earth am I? I mean, Claire has done a wonderful job of introducing me. But yes, this slightly dishevelled figure in front of you whose shaving gear is definitely somewhere in the bottom of a pile of boxes somewhere. I work at the Open University. I'm a senior learning designer, ostensibly responsible for student outcomes, but also sort of a pedagogic dog's body. I'm also the creator and co-host of the Pedagodzilla podcast, Pedagodzilla, where we explore pedagogic paradigms, theory, and practice through the lens of pop culture. Think something like, how does Arthur Dent take a cognitive load off using the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that kind of thing. I'm also the creator and co-host of the Infinite Escape Room podcast, which are escape rooms of the ears and imagination, which has been going out weekly for the last 8 years, several years, for years. And I'm also an accidental escape room enthusiast and designer. And as Claire says, it's all of those weird things mushed together that bring me here today. So I wanted to start with me and escape rooms. Escape rooms are brilliant. So I was organising a stag do in London many years ago and needed to arrange a group activity for 8 people. Googled such things and discovered, escape rooms. Sort of vaguely aware of them, never done one before, and I booked one. It was the $1 Million Heist by Enigma Quests in London, if anybody's ever done it. And we did it. And oh my goodness gracious me, it was incredible. I was completely hooked straight away. The teamwork, the drama, the aha moments, this real kind of cinematic and theatrical feel. It was really the highlight of the whole stag, particularly because during the go-karting, later on, the stag got motion sick and had to have a little lie down in the pit lane. But yes, I caught the escape room bug and went around booking more escape rooms. And around the same time, a friend of mine suggested, like to start a podcast. What would you like to do it on? Don't know. So we had this idea, could we do an escape room every week? Could we do it for free and with our friends online? And thus the Infinite Escape Room was born, an idea that we thought originally was completely original, and then discovered that Escape This Podcast had been doing it much more professionally for some time. But ho-hum. The thing about doing an escape room of the ears, though, is that your imagination is really cheap, which is why also it's a very useful thing to have for education. Anyway, we started in 2018. We've been doing weekly rooms since then, and we're still going. Puzzle making element of it was really good. We started using the kind of social glue. It was part game, part performance, part sort of BBC Radio 4 style panel show, but mostly it was an excuse for us all to hang out and do something creative together. That was particularly important when COVID hit, where we found that the podcast itself, and in particular our post-episode metaphorical pub debrief, became a kind of third space for us all to meet and kind of come together during lockdown. And aside from that, we actually found that we got an audience. We started it just for ourselves, but we soon discovered that we had this kind of unexpected international audience. People were solving along with us, people were getting in touch with us, encouraging us, and it shifted from just being a thing that we were doing to something that we were making for a community of people, a wonderful, beautiful, engaged community of people. So what about escape room ennui? Well, I mean, I have personally written around 200 escape rooms, most of which are for the show, which sounds horrendous when you say it out loud. Early on, those first few years, I was operating on a lot of creative adrenaline, and I could just sort of, write a room in a couple of nights. And that's, of course, drawing on a whole lifetime of experience of, books, video games, movies, other escape rooms that I'd done. Obviously, just stuff that had been building up in the mind for years. All these old ideas suddenly had a place to go. So the settings and mechanics, the jokes and interaction would just coalesce naturally. Some rooms worked, some rooms didn't. We had some new producers join. We had people come in, solvers came and went. We had guests. The show grew and grew and grew. And then after a while, the adrenaline began to wear off. And staring at that blank page to write a puzzle, to write an escape room, started getting harder. The creative well started to run dry. Deadlines started creeping closer, the recording deadline. And it started scrambling towards a sort of, got to get something, anything out on the page. And trying to turn what was essentially at this point a depleted imagination into something playable. I started procrastinating. I started actually feeling a bit dreading recordings and just suffering from a kind of general creative ennui, basically just stuck. And it was around that time that I realized I had to stop. Whoops, I hit the spacebar by accident, sorry. It was around that time I realized I had to stop thinking about escape rooms as a blank page problem and start thinking about them as a design problem. So I mentioned that I'm a senior learning designer. I was once a learning designer, unsenior by proxy. I was relatively new when I started in the role, and I decided to start learning about pedagogy. And the way that I chose to do that was by doing another podcast, because I'm a glutton for punishment. At the same time, I was completing a course in human-centered design. And around this time, while I'm suffering from this creative ennui, and I'm really sort of trying to get to grips with this new role and understand what was to me quite a sort of a new set of theories, I wasn't just designing escape rooms. I was trying to empty my brain onto a page and hoping that all the bits would go together. And I realized that in a professional context, I wouldn't work like that at all. In learning design, what I'd do was I'd think about the purpose, the structure, the audience, the students, the experience, how I'd support it, and how I'd order it. Basically, I was trying to build something that looked like a house without actually thinking about things like foundations, load-bearing walls, or whether anybody could actually live in it. It was a box with windows, it wasn't a house. And that's the thing, escape rooms aren't just a collection of puzzles in the same way that a learning experience isn't just a collection of facts and things you need to know. They're designed experiences. And so if we treat them like a design problem, or if I treat them like a design problem, then they become a bit easier, a bit more enjoyable to write. So what I'm going to do is I'd like to share with you the principles that help me get past that blank page, recover the fun, and ultimately write better rooms in a more fun and sustainable way. So over the rest of the session, we're going to present a very simple escape room, and I'll be asking you to solve it. But to make things interesting, we're going to do it in 4 stages. And at each stage, we're going to add one of our design elements and see how that impacts the experience of the room. So we're going to start with our plain room, then add our pints lens, our pals lens, and our pedagogy. We're doing this in reverse order, which will make sense probably at the end. What we'll see is this very, very scientific ennui-ometer will start to drop throughout the session as we flesh out our room. So let's begin with our slightly dry escape room. As with all good designs and all good education, we do of course have to start with our kernel. What are we trying to discuss or teach? So for our teeny-weeny escape room, let's look at ciphers. So thinking caps on, people. Here is your first room. You see a locked box with a sign behind it. Upon inspecting the lock, you see that it is a 5-letter alphabetic combination lock. Please begin. The combination is indeed shift. And you have solved the Caesar cipher and found a trophy. For everybody else, by the way, so just to quickly read through the text. So a cipher is a method for transforming readable text into encoded text. A Caesar cipher is a simple cipher that shifts each letter of text by a fixed number of places in the alphabet. In this case, the plus value, the decryptor, tells you how many places each original letter has shifted forward in the alphabet. And then the combination was TIJGU plus 1, which of course, if you apply a shift up the alphabet, gives you shift. S-H-I-F-T. Jolly, 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 well done. And you have found the trophy in the box. That was very quick. It was also a little bit dry, but was it educational? So, How did you find that? Possibly a little bit, a little bit of a warm up, but otherwise could have been a bit more engaging. So I mean, it's a little bit early in the morning for it, but let's go to the pub to start to liven this thing up a little bit, specifically the socio-conceptual pub. So around the time that I was getting into escape room writing and was having this real kind of sticking point with the new learning designer role, this sort of creative ennui plus a little bit of professional angst, a colleague strongly encouraged me to go to the Playful Learning Conference. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect, but I went along and it changed things for me. It changed, I would say, without exaggeration, that it genuinely changed my life. It helped me to understand that learning design didn't have to be something that I did by rote. It was something that I could do in a more playful, authentic, and human way. And in turn, it helped me feel more kind of human, creative, and purposeful in my work. And it also allowed me and encouraged me to connect more directly with the things that I loved about games, about escape room, about creating things. I'd just like to name check the Playful Learning Association, and in particular the work of Professor Nick Whitten, who essentially wrote the book on playful learning. It's really rather wonderful. Playful learning in itself, by the way, it's not about making learning silly or frivolous. It's essentially about using the qualities of play to create safe, engaging, meaningful learning experiences and professional practice. It's that play is not trivial, it is human. It's not unprofessional, but instead play can create the conditions where people feel able to explore, to experiment, to fail, recover, and learn. Now, playful learning is an enormous field. It's a very broad field. I won't tread across the whole thing in this very brief segment. What instead I'm going to do is just focus on one particular concept for it, the magic circle. So the magic circle is essentially a precondition for play. Before people can play, there needs to be a space where play is possible, not just a physical space, but a socio-conceptual space. There's a shared agreement, essentially, that in here, different rules apply. A little bit like the social contract that Claire started at the beginning of the day, just to set the scene for us. And escape rooms are really brilliant examples of this, because the very first thing they do is invite you into the magic circle. Let's take a quick look at the components of the magic circle. So we can see here that magic circle learning has got two sorts of domains. We've got gameful design and playful attitude. I'm just going to focus in on the elements at the bottom of the diagram for a moment. So we have the meaningful experience. So this experience should be meaningful to the learner. Why should they care? What's in it for them? What's your hook? There needs to be intrinsic motivation. What are we doing to make them want to participate in the activity for its own sake, rather than for an extrinsic reward? Failure mindset. How are we making failure a positive, safe, and part of the game? How do we encourage our participants to take a punt without fear of embarrassment? The illusory community. What are we doing to foster a ludic, playful attitude within the space? How are we making it open, inclusive, and democratic so that our participants are able to immerse themselves in a playful way? And finally, imaginative freedom. How are we giving our participants the ability to explore and potentially co-create within the space? So what we need to do is establish our safe, social, illusory space. It's one where you're less afraid of making a fool of yourself and one that you actually want to be in. It's the third space. I personally like to liken it to a socially constructed pub, hence the pints in our development process, and not just for the alliteration in the title, honest. In the UK, the pub was traditionally the third space. It was where a community would come together to let their hair down, share a drink, have a chat, play bar games, and generally make fools of themselves. If you ask people why they go to the pub, they very rarely say, oh, it's for the beer and the peanuts. It's for the company, it's for the people, it's for that sense of social connection. For international guests on the topic of failure, there is a curious quirk to UK pubs where if somebody drops or smashes a glass, you don't hear a shock or a silence. Instead, you get a cheer and a round of applause. It doesn't have to be a pub, of course. It could also be your local cafe where everyone knows your order, the one with the comfy sofas and that dog who seems to belong to absolutely everybody. Was it Central Perk in Friends? That kind of thing. The important thing is that it's not work, it's not home, and it's not school. It's a third space. It's neutral social ground. And it's going to be where we establish the next step of the design of our escape room. So we can do these with both the setting, which is the setup and the environment, and the briefing. So we are going to align our space to our subject with our meaningful experience. For the intrinsic motivation, we're going to create a space and activity that people want to interact with. We're going to establish the freedom to try, fail, and experiment to ensure that we're enforcing a failure mindset. For our illusory community, we're going to demonstrate play. We are going to demonstrate play within the space to establish that. And then we're going to also define the scope for exploration and creation. We can establish these in both our setting, as in our setting the scene, and the briefing that we deliver at the beginning. And of course, the secret sauce is showing that it's absolutely okay to make a complete fool of yourself. So let's start with a briefing for our slightly less dry escape room. So allow me to start this again. Hello and welcome to our tiny escape room. Before we begin, a few things to know. I shall be acting as your games master. I'll be presenting all of the elements of the room. I'll be giving you the important elements of the room verbally and via these PowerPoint slides or screen share. You'll have everything you need to solve the room. Glowing objects can be interacted with, so use the chat to say what you'd like to have a look at in the room. And you may find it useful to have something in front of you to take notes on. Now, please let me take you to the UK's most generic pub, the King's Arms. There will be a brief transition. Oh, hello, and welcome to the King's Arms. We've got the puffiest... Oh dear, my blur's gone all wonky. Oh, wait, are you the new bar staff? Well, bad news. You're stuck here forever. The last orders bell has been locked in the till, and we've lost the password to unlock it. We can't close up until we've rung last orders. It's pub law. I've been living on packs of nuts and J2Os. Can you help me? I've not fed the cat or the goldfish for a week, so I've probably only got a cat now. Can you save the staff of this accidental 24-hour bar and escape the service industry and find their missing last orders bell? What would you like to do? I can see Claire has... Okay, we're asking to look at the menu. I can see we've got a request to look at the till as well. So the password that has been put into the thing is pints. People have correctly solved that is pints. Bear with me for a moment. Once more, very smooth transition. Oh, pints! You got pints in the keyboard. Of course, that was the password. Oh, we've got the last orders bell. Right, I'm going to ring it. Oh, I'm supposed to have a bell here, but I think it's in a moving box. Oh, thank you for freeing us all. Right, get out of here, you horrible customers, and never come back. Oh, now we finish work. Anybody fancy a lock-in? So, what you did there was a keyboard cipher. So, I can see the people in the chat saw obviously the shift that was indicated on the menu, drawing on the keyboard, which indicated that the keys simply shifted one to the left on a keyboard. I must apologise for a slight inclusivity muck-up on my part, because of course that will only apply to a QWERTY keyboard. So anybody operating on a Dvorak keyboard or similar would have struggled to solve that. But jolly, jolly, jolly well done. And I hope that by making a fool of myself in that, I'm also making it a little bit less intimidating for people to engage and make fools of yourself. I also hope that with the set dressing, the stakes, and the scene, you found that a little bit more engaging. Can I get maybe some thumbs up or down in the chat, or some text just to indicate whether you felt that was a bit more kind of engaging? Did you feel like a little bit more involved in that? Brilliant, getting some thumbs up. Super stuff, wonderful. So that was our pints, which we used to give our set dressing, our stakes, and our scene, and to establish our magic circle. So far, our little escape room has been very much a solo experience, and escape rooms can absolutely work solo. But if you've gone to all the trouble of bringing a group of people together and to enjoy the benefits of that, then you need your room set up in a manner that encourages and rewards your solvers for interacting with each other. So I talked earlier about my kind of journey with making escape rooms. So I started off by making escape rooms on instinct. I'm going to put some big inverted because I did some really rubbish ones early on. There was no real plan. There wasn't really a design model, but I was editing them as well. So I was recording these for the podcast and then listening back while I edited. And some rooms just felt flat. They felt kind of step by step, do the thing, do the thing, do the thing. It was a list of jobs rather than an engaging escape room. They were technically fine, but a bit dull. But some rooms were different. They were more dynamic. There was a bit more energy, more laughter, more tension, more momentum, and people sounded like more of a group in them. They were having a lot more fun. And what I realized was that I was gathering a group of people to do a thing, but the thing didn't always need a group. Sometimes I basically designed a puzzle that was solo, but with spectators. Now, of course, the solo hero moment isn't always a bad thing. I mean, everybody absolutely loves it if you're doing a physical escape room where you nail a puzzle alone. You get that wonderful smug glow of being the puzzle genius. But the danger of that is that you can have one experienced person just kind of storming around a room, solving everything. And then everybody else watches in a sort of befuddled silence. They don't know what's being solved, why it matters, how it connects, or how to contribute. Of course, from an escape room perspective, that's not much good. And from an escape room education perspective, that's dreadful. It means that people aren't getting the actual benefit of the thing. I've been both of those people. I have been that smug puzzle solver and the baffled bystander. The best experiences that I was listening back to are the ones where people aren't just being a solo puzzle solving machine, but instead one where the group itself finds a rhythm. Everybody has something that they can notice, that they can try, test, or connect to something somebody else is doing. So the best group rooms are not just puzzles, they're creating reasons for people to interact with one another. So one of the early design questions became, where does the teamwork, the collaboration, the communication actually happen? So collaboration isn't just a nice extra to tack on. It's something that we can actually deliberately design for, both in escape rooms and educations. Now, from an education perspective, we already know that lots of good learning is social, that people build understanding through discussion, through testing ideas, explaining things, thinking things through out loud, and hearing the perspectives of others. We also know, and your educational institutions may have different mileage, but I can speak from the Open University perspective, that our students resist it. Our students really don't like collaborative work. They do not like group work. Why would I join a distance learning university if I wanted to speak to other people? And they've also got other reasons. You know, there's time pressure, there's confidence, there's the logistics. Some people have had bad experiences with group work in the past. But group work is a bit like vegetables. It can be a little bit hard to get your toddler started on them, but if prepared properly, people will be better for them. If we go back to our magic circle briefly as well, participation also helps create that playful space. So it's students are not just in the activity, they're also helping to define it. And by doing that, the facilitator or games master can respond to that. We also need to consider social independence. So why does this need, interdependence? Why does this need a group? So not just one person can solve everything while everybody watches. or while everybody else takes a nap. We need to actively design for interdependency. There's a couple of ways we can do this. We can give people different things to notice. We can give people different information, different roles, different perspectives. We can give them reasons to talk, to compare, to contest, to combine ideas. What we want them doing is voicing to one another and therefore to themselves and establishing that wonderful shared understanding, what they understand and what they don't understand. We want them listening, making connections and solving through the group and not just alongside the group. There's some lovely pedagogic connections to this as well, which I won't go into in too much detail, but you may be familiar with the principles of games-based learning, gamification, well, not gamification, actually, games-based learning, playful learning, problem-based learning, and sort of general teamwork and communication stuff. So when we design an escape room now, we need to ask not just, is this puzzle clever, but what does this puzzle do that's going to bring people together? Okay, so the next step of our terrible tiny escape room, let's add our collaborative component. Now, normally I would call for volunteers at this, but in the interests of time and technology, I have set up some stooges. So Claire, Rosemary, and Ruth have kindly agreed to be my stooges. Could I just trouble you to introduce yourselves and also to confirm on microphone that while you have either volunteered or been volunteered, you have absolutely no idea what I'm about to ask you to do?
I can absolutely confirm that. We are terrified.
Well, I'm sure that the text chat will help you out if you get stuck in any way. So, to our briefing. Everything is the same as it was before. However, you may find items that Claire, Ruth, Rosemary, only you, as in one of you, is able to interact with. Please only access items that you can interact with. However, I'm going to put all of the items into the Teams chat, so audience, please feel free to look through all of them. And to Claire, Ruth and Rosemary, please make sure that you are talking with your teammates because communication will be the key to solving this. And once more, there will be a brief, utterly seamless transition. Hello and welcome to the King's Arms. We've got the saltiest scampi fries and the flattest lemonade in the country. Oh, are you the new bar staff? Oh, please help me, I've been trapped here for days. Monty, the pup dog, is barking at everyone who tries to leave without giving him a pepperami. And the only one we have left is locked in the till. To make matters worse, I've spilled lime cordial all over the floor. Oh, can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?
Yes.
Claire, Ruth. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank goodness. Oh, there we go. Oh, that was nearly awkward. Oh, gosh, my big bald head's in frame. Hang on, let me just want to ruin the illusion, would I? Oh, that's great. There should be something around that could help. Anyway, I need to dash. Somebody's done something dreadful in the walk-in fridge and I need to mop it up. Thank goodness that's over. You cannot help but notice that the lime cordial on the floor has made it extra sticky. You are unable to move from your present locations around the bar. Claire, you are where the little outline of a person is on the far left. Rosemary, you are in the centre, and Ruth, you are on the right. Can you once again save the staff of this accidental 24-hour bar and find the missing pepperami for the pub dog? What would you like to do?
Shall we have a look at Claire's, I don't think it's a menu, but whatever that writing is, Claire? Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
A notice of some sort?
Yeah, some kind of.
Okay. Claire, a link to the item is in front of you. Claire, if you could please be the only one of the team to access this. Audience, please feel free to access. Claire, please describe what you have found. Communication is key.
Okay, so these are actually the specials of the day. So we've got a starter of prawn cocktail with lukewarm prawns served on a bed of limp lettuce dressed with very odd pink sauce. And we all remember that very clearly. Then we've got a main meal of house burger, which is a mince pate, black on the outside, pink on the inside, so pink again, served in toasted bun, stacked 2 feet tall with toppings, and you need a knife and fork. And then the special pudding is sticky toffee pudding with molten custard and a side of bonjela. So bonjela sticks out of that whole thing as odd. And we've got a repetition of pink.
And didn't Bangela used to be pink? I don't know if it still is.
Pink.
Did it used to be? It's not now, so that's pink as well, is it?
So they're all pink.
So we need to then move on to one of your 2 objects, I'm guessing.
Shall I go?
Yeah.
So I think
Have
I'm
a look
getting
at the till.
the till, yeah.
Okay, let me get the till for you.
Michael, I'm assuming I'm not allowed to type in the chat the combinations I can see, so I'm going to describe them.
You absolutely can, but would you like to describe to everybody what you can see first?
Yeah. So we can see on the till and across the bottom where the little cash register bit of it is that pops out, we've got a combination of letters and numbers. So L2, C3, it's the first one.
Ooh.
Then L5, C1. Then L1, C6. L3, C17. And L4, C4. And I'm going to probably show my cluelessness and make a guess at line and character being L and C. Claire's nodding, so yeah, we've got agreements in the chat. Thank you, folks. So that's everything I can see. Shall I pass to Ruth? See what you've got?
Yeah, should we have a look at what the item?
Okay, let me find it.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping half an eye on the chat, and I can see that the chat has had some very bright ideas. So Claire, Rosemary, Ruth, I would encourage you to, yeah. Actually, no, I'm going to let you figure it out yourselves. There we go. Okay, Ruth, can you share what you found, please?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a picture of a beer pump, and on the label there is some writing, and it says it's like a main kind of heading: Ottendorf, book cipher, and then some text. The only beer that hides text within text by using numbers to denote line and character number.
We've got quite a few asking us to look at the menu. So line and character in the menu.
Yeah, so do you want to shout out the L and C's, Rosemary, and then we'll work through?
Yep. So line 2, C6.
I take it 6 isn't going to be the blank because that's a space, but then the next one is a C.
Okay.
C for cat.
Line 5, character 1.
H.
Line 11, character 6.
U.
Line 3, character 17.
Oh, someone in the chat is maybe beating us to it, Rosemary.
Lots of people beating us to it.
Chums.
Chums.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Pals, chums, friends, togetherness.
Would you like to put chums into the till?
We would indeed.
We would, yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, bear with me for a moment. Oh, the password was chums, of course. Oh, thank goodness. Now Monty has his pepper army and we can slip out and finally escape. Oh, saying that though, he is lovely when he's had a snack. Maybe I will just stay here. and give him a little stroke. Come here, Monty, come here. Well done, well done, well done. Well done, chat. Well done, chat, and well done, Claire, Rosemary, and Ruth. Thank you so much. I'm conscious that doing this live in front of a studio audience is very intimidating. I think you did a marvellous, marvellous job there. So, well, hopefully you found that, well, you know, once more I made a fool of myself, but you did a marvellous, marvellous job. You shared, you talked, you followed the solve path perfectly, and just well done, as always, to the chat for rocketing through. We've got some frightfully clever people, particularly this early in the morning. I don't know what's in your coffee, but I need some of it in mine. It's very, very potent. So there were three components to this. One was the menu, which had a series of items on it, and of course the critical points of this were the letters, were the lines and the characters on those lines. We had the till, the central component, which had the line and character number denoted along the bottom, and then we had our prompt about Ottendorf, or a book cipher, which is a cipher that hides text within text. The idea being that you have a particular book which you need to decrypt a code. It is one of my least favourite forms of cipher, but we're learning some cool ciphers as we go. This is a very, very simplified version of an Ottendorf. You can do all sorts of fancy things with them. So let's move now to pedagogy. This is the final design lens. So far, we've got the setting. We've established our setting and our play space, our magic circle. We've established our group dynamic. We've established a bit of collaboration. Things are starting to happen. We're now going to add the final layer, the kind of some more of the pedagogic building blocks. This isn't how you would do it normally, but I'm doing this the other way around for reasons that will hopefully be clear by the end. This is where we ask ourselves, what is this room actually for? So let's revert to our blank page problem. Back at the beginning, I was having puzzle burnout, the creative well had run dry, staring at nothing, and just trying to find an idea. Tried to consume more media, didn't really work. Tried to watch the news, don't recommend that. And then shifted to, what am I interested in? What do I want to say? What do I want to teach? What do I want to explore? What do I want people to discover? What will be a satisfying thing for me to share? And that is the same as the start of an instructional design journey. Essentially, what do I want my students to learn? What should they understand, practice, notice, apply, be able to do? And so if we flip this, then learning design becomes the design engine of the thing. It gives the rooms a purpose, a starting point, a focus. It gives the puzzles somewhere to come from. I called ciphers our kernel earlier, and it is very much a kernel. It's the bit at the middle everything starts to spread from. So instead of sitting there looking at an empty page, trying to start with a lock or a code or a gimmick, we start with something that we want to share. Those of you familiar with constructive alignment will be familiar with this, I'm sure, but essentially it's the principle. This is John Biggs' constructive alignment, that your learning outcomes should be tested in the assessment. Your assessment should demonstrate your learning outcomes, and that you have learning activities that allow your students to develop the necessary skills and knowledge to complete the assessment. And that this all sort of aligns. And we can apply this to our escape room design journey as well. So we look so far, our learning outcomes. Participants will be able to identify and decode some simple ciphers. Do they know this? Have we actually made them aware of this? Transparent pedagogy link there. We have our learning activities where we've got our students exploring the pub to find information about the cipher. We've been kind of trying to embed that information throughout. So, for example, the information about the Ottendorf on the beer pump earlier. And then we have the assessment. We have the students needing to actively apply their understanding and skills in order to solve the puzzle, in order to escape. There's also some pedagogic paradigms that we can apply, really good ones just to have in your pocket, really, in all instructional design, to make for a better escape room and better learning experience. So experiential learning, Kolb's experiential learning cycle, here in possibly the worst ever iteration of this diagram. Do our interactions and hint system support this? Do they support our learners in experimenting, having that concrete experience, observing and reflecting on it, thinking of new ways to approach it, and then starting again? Situated or situative learning, depending on which way you go on that. Is our context authentic to our subject? We have some heavily mediated social interaction, and do we have a kind of a solid constructivist approach? Cognitive load, another really good pedagogic paradigm to have in your pocket. The intrinsic load, how complicated is the core puzzle for our students to process? The extraneous load, how much more complicated is the design and setting making it than we intend to? And then the germane load, how much load do the non-puzzle and personal contexts add to the overall difficulty of doing this? I've mentioned several times that it is still unreasonably early on a Friday morning to be doing any heavy brain lifting, particularly if you're in the States where it's still not even really morning, it's basically nighttime. So based on that little kind of whiz through some pedagogic principles, let's think about some design tweaks for our room for its very final iteration. So with constructive alignment, we need to make our participants aware of the learning outcomes in the briefing. From an experiential learning perspective, we need to make sure that participants are aware that there is a hint system and that they cannot fail the room, that they can iterate. From a situative or situated learning perspective, our setting and interaction method need to be more authentic to our learning outcomes. And then cognitive load. We need to make sure that we're balancing the scene setting against the noise that adds to cognitive load. Although interestingly, you'll find that real life escape rooms and just sort of anything really can use this to tweak the difficulty. So you can add more noise to bring the difficulty up. You can reduce noise to bring the difficulty down. And so, to the briefing. Hello again. Everything, most things, are as they were in the previous room. This escape room, you'll be identifying and decoding some simple ciphers using contemporary techniques and technology. Communication remains key to solving this. Please remember that despite the peril of the situation about to unfold, there are no unfortunate consequences or incorrect answers. I will once more be your games master / facilitator, and if at any stage you would like a hint, please let me know. I will also offer a hint if I feel it would help guide your experience. And as before, our solvers, Claire, Rosemary, Ruth, please only refer to the assets you are given access to. The audience, though, will once again be able to have access to all of the assets and can play along. The setting for this adventure will be more authentic to the kind of situation where you may actually need to find and decode a cipher. Oh, my knees! Excuse me. Hello! I am Professor Von Deadly. In 10 minutes, my moon cannon will destroy Milton Keynes, a city I have never visited, but for some reason hold in very low esteem. With your shoelaces tied to the floor, you have no hope of finding the abort code, which, incidentally, simply shouting out, will cause the firing sequence to abort. Even with access to these 3 decryption supercomputers that I keep lying around and always forget to switch off. Now, I have to make a cup of tea and have a little dippy-bicky before the fireworks begin. Fare thee well, Milton Keynes! Each of you is standing before one of the decryption supercomputers. Time is ticking. In 10 minutes, Milton Keynes will be blown off the face of the earth. You are once more Claire on the left, Rosemary in the centre, and Ruth on the right. What would you like to do?
So we're in a seamless transition of our own, Mike. Rosemary has turned into Kate.
Hello, Kate. Goodness gracious me.
And we've swapped out another.
Fabulous. Welcome,
So,
Kate.
do you want to go first, Kate? Or you're in the middle, aren't you?
So if we want a real swap,
Oh, wonderful.
game-
Oh, Kate, thank you for getting into the spirit. That's brilliant.
I happen to be sitting here with the Game Goose. So,
Game Goose, I love it.
so let's take a look at the decryption in front of me here and see what this computer looks like.
Excellent. Okay. Kate, a link is going into the text chat for you now. Audience, please feel free to play along.
Let's take a look here. So, as soon as we're able to get the uplink from the moon working, which it does not wish to do at the moment. Uplink from the moon, please. Please, let's work. Possibly send one. Ah, there we go. Uplink from the moon is working. So, we have a Vigneray decryptor with ciphertext of B, K, V, T, W, and I. We have space for a decryption key, and that should output decrypted text. It's telling me that some ciphers are more complex. Bigger and rarer ciphers are easier to do with a computer. A Vigneray cipher encrypts text by shifting each letter according to a repeating keyword. Each letter of the key determines a different shift amount. And our decryption sequence is 1, 2, 3. So hopefully we can figure out what to do with our text, which I've just pasted into the chat, and a decryption key of 1 to 2 to 3.
Do you want to
So
go next, Ruth, and see what then you've got?
Yeah.
Thanks,
That'd be
Kate.
great.
Absolutely. And there you go, Ruth. Here is the decryption supercomputer in front of you.
Okay.
Picking up on Kate's point of authenticity as well. I love that the graphics are just so simple. So they do set the scene, but they're not trying to be anything realistic.
That's absolutely a design choice.
So I've got like a control panel and it says module 3 auto decoder and then a box with encrypted ciphertext and the letters G, F, I, R, M, T. And then just underneath that, it says enter cipher type to activate decoder tool and input cipher type. And then there's a white box to enter the decipher type. And then it looks like a button to execute. And I'm just going to, Claire, you've popped that GFIRMT in the chat. So it looks like we've got to enter something in to execute.
So Kate had the cipher name, didn't you? Is that the execute, or do we need to find?
So possibly, since it says 1 to 2 to 3, we enter something into computer 1, enter its output into computer 2,
Yep,
and then enter that into computer 3 to shut down.
So we'd better have a look then at computer 1.
Mm-hmm.
Righto. Claire, directly in front of you, you see this.
Okay, so my decrypted text is K, A, D, C, N. Yes, Emma. Everyone was clicking on it at the same time. So K for knee, A for apple, D for dad, C for cap, N for not able to think. So then it has a warning. Caesar ciphers are susceptible to brute force attacks through cycling through all possible shifts in the alphabet. And then there's a shift that works. So when I click shift 1, then the decrypted text changes to J said CBM. So if I go back and tell everybody, so the first one where it's 0 is KADCN, and then when I move 1, the K becomes a J and the A becomes a Z, so we are literally moving one letter along. So the brute force, the brute is a key word, Mike?
Can you explain how you got to that?
I didn't. Erica did. I cannot take
Claire,
take
would you like to
credit.
try would you like to try shifting forwards several spaces in
So if I
to brute force?
So if I go shift 9, then I get brute. Well done. So
And
then that all becomes green on my screen.
And if we enter brute into our module 2 as the decryption key, we get a decrypted text of A T B A S H at bash. And down below, we have a green light lit that says that would have been horrid manually. Did you know that the @bash cipher is a simple substitution cipher that encodes a message by reversing the alphabet? A equals Z, B equals Y, and so forth. So that might give us what we put into computer 3. So @bash is our decrypted text, or we might use the @bash cipher to invert everything that we have on unit 3.
So now we've got, so I've added @bash in execute, and it says @bash cipher identified, a simple substitute cipher that maps each letter to its reverse position in the alphabet. A becomes Z, B becomes Y, and so on. And we do have a table as well. And then it says decryption workspace, use the table above, and it's for the encrypted cipher text in module 3, so that GFIRMT.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to put Turing in there.
And our brilliant chat has found Turing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I note the level of hints and guidance that we get in affordances with this, in terms of people have noted it seems to be teaching ciphers. And now with @bash and into Turing as a response, some ways to see, oh, brute force was embedded as a hint in 1, @bash is a hint in 2, and Turing, if we're learning about coding or encryption processes. So lovely affordances and hints to know that you're on the right path.
You've done an absolutely marvellous job. However, the firing sequence is still going. I believe that Professor Von, whatever I forgot to call his name, said that you need to shout Turing in order to abort the firing sequence.
Turing!
You shout Turing.
Turing!
Oh, of course! Turing! I've forgotten what the accent for this chap was. Turing, one of the most famous crypto analysts of all time. Of course, Milton Keynes, where he worked. I mean, technically Bletchley, but it's basically Milton Keynes. And of course, they've got those marvellous concrete cows and the Redways, a wonderful network for cycling and walking across the city. I shall stop my evil villainy and instead dedicate my life to the Parks Trust, where they maintain excellent green spaces. Well done. All of you, you did an absolutely marvellous job. Well done to the audience, and also to those people saying that Milton Keynes can still get distracted. Outrageous! It's a beautiful city. It's wonderful. We've got a really good Korean Japanese fusion restaurant, and one really good independent coffee shop. 2 independent good coffee shops. Anyway, sorry, I'm not here to talk about Milton Keynes. Okay, we're just about coming to the end now. Claire, Kate, Ruth, how did you find that? I mean, no, Kate's actually given a wonderful debrief there, so I really appreciate that.
Pre-debriefed for you. The affordances on that were lovely, as well as having to work through each in turn. So it really kind of provided a workflow and helped with hints that you're in the right direction.
I think you all did an absolutely marvellous job. And actually, in playtesting, this was slightly more complicated. The route was a little bit more obfuscated, but yeah, massively derailed things. So simplified for the sake of time. And I'm conscious we're nearly out, but for the people at home, I will very quickly show you what our solvers were seeing. So module 1, we had our brute force Caesar decryptor, where simply by brute forcing it, i.e. clicking through, would give you brute, which would then feed into module 2, where if I just reset this, you'll see that we had our decryption order here for our 3 modules, and by putting in our decryption key from module 1, brute, it gave you @bash, and you would know that @bash was correct because the light at the bottom would go green and give you an @bash table, @bash being a simple substitution cipher. And then on our 3rd module, it required you to enter a cipher type. You could have put some others in, assuming that, there we go, which would have been incorrect. But by putting in @bash, it let you know that you were on the right track, gave you once more the decryption table, and then when you put your decryption thing in, it gave you Turing. So you did a really, really marvellous job. Thank you so much for being so game with that, and actually so much quicker than the test team. So jolly, 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 well done. So in this session, we have started with a very dry little escape room. It's basically sort of the boiled potatoes of escape room, vaguely nourishing, but not really much in the way of flavour there. We added in our pints lens, we added our socio-conceptual and actual pub to start introducing our setting and a bit of fun. We added in pals, we added in our collaborative, our group element, and then finally we applied some pedagogic lenses to really start polishing the experience and making sure that it was achieving everything that we were trying to, which in this has been exploring and using a series of ciphers. I hope you have picked up a new one perhaps that you hadn't encountered before. So we started with a basic idea. We've had 4 different versions of it. Each one has been more designed than the last. Obviously, if we were to apply this as a approach, you would apply it as pedagogy first. You would start with your learning outcomes and everything, and then build down from there. But obviously, we've tackled it in the opposite order in this session. We started with a blank page and a bit of puzzle burnout and trying to summon cleverness out of nowhere. And we basically stopped treating rooms like bags of puzzles and started treating them like we're discerning learning experiences. Okay. So my journey has been from inspiration and adrenaline through burnout and dread into a more sustainable design process. And the thought that I'd like to leave you with at the end of this session is that escape rooms and educational escape rooms are not just about making learning fun. They're about designing the conditions where people are able to enter a shared space, to work together, to test ideas and test the ideas that you're looking to communicate or convey, where they can fail safely and they can discover and learn something. And yes, and for me, it's that the way through escape room ennui isn't waiting for an idea to magic its way out of the firmament, but instead to build spaces for ideas to grow. Pedagogy to give a room purpose, pals to bring it to life, and pints to make it a third space that people would like to step inside. So I'll share the references and some further reading and the asset credits at the end. But yes, I'd like to thank you all so very much for coming along, for playing along, and thank as well Claire, Ruth, Kate and Rosemary for being a wonderful team of solvers. Thank you so much.